Okay, good evening. It is Sunday, November 30th, and this is the astrological transits for December. I'm going to start with the major configurations and the retrogrades, and then I'll do another video getting into the astrological transits by date. So let's get started. We're continuing to have that minor grand trine between Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune. It's happening all month. Uranus is in Taurus, Pluto is in Aquarius, Neptune is in Pisces. And so you have the three transpersonal planets all working together to create major shifts, major changes, major upheaval, radical change to society and our spirituality and our karma. There's also a minor grand trine all month long between Neptune, Lilith, and Pluto. So Neptune is in Pisces, Lilith is in Scorpio, and Pluto's in Aquarius. Again, all month long, you have our spirituality working with our upheaval and transformation of society, as well as our deep dive into the dark underworld of the feminine, the repressed and liberated feminine. This is really another opportunity, as I've said in several videos past, um, for the feminine to come out of the shadows, awaken, liberated, powerful, and involved in this deep spiritual transformation of society that's taking place. There continues to be the grand water trine with Jupiter on one end, Saturn and Neptune together on the other end, and a series of different planets coming into contact with that trine. We have Mercury and Lilith trining Jupiter. Sorry, Mercury and Lilith are in Scorpio, trining Jupiter in Cancer, and Saturn with Neptune in Pisces. This is going to be roughly engaged between December 3rd and December 13th. So you have that deep, dark, transformative Lilith together with Mercury. So our ability to speak and communicate about the liberation of the feminine, working with the aspects of society, Jupiter and Saturn, both our social benefit and our social limitations. Saturn is with Neptune, so there is this spiritual, both in Pisces, so there's this kind of spiritual redevelopment or reconstruction happening. Then December 4th through the 14th, so basically just a day later in its cycle, we'll have a wedge. And this involves Mercury, Lilith together, opposite Uranus, and trine Saturn, Neptune. So similar to the Grand Trine, but this one is with Uranus involved. So you have the communication of the repressed, liberated feminine opposing this radical change, Uranus in Taurus, the earth sign, with the support and help of Saturn and Neptune, both in Pisces. Again, kind of this restructuring of the spirituality. We'll have two cradles in December. all these major configurations, you can look up what they mean, how they look. It's kind of hard to describe them in a video. I'm going to try to post a chart for today, I believe, up so you can see more clearly these configurations. The cradle, starting November 25th, it started. So I talked about this in the last video. It's going to go until December 5th. So we're in it right now. You have Venus and Lilith together in Scorpio, sextile Pluto in Aquarius, sextile Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, then sextile Uranus in Taurus. So the Venus and Lilith are opposite Uranus. It's just like a wedge, but now Pluto's involved. So this one's going to wrap up before that wedge starts. So having Pluto involved is also this, again, deep transformation of what our society means, how we function. And the cradle is the first and the last planet in opposition, with 2 planets in sextile to both. So all the outer planets are working together in concession, or in succession, I should say, whereas the first and the last planet are in opposition to each other. So they're having a power struggle, but the other 2 planets are helping communicate for them. Similar to the wedge, you have the opposition, then you have one planet that's trine and sextile, the other 2 that are having this conflict. And that third planet is kind of ameliorating the conflict, or translating, communicating for the 2. There's another cradle starting December 11th through the 17th, and Mercury comes involved. So it's basically the same setup, but instead of Venus working with Lilith, Mercury is going to be in Scorpio working with Lilith. Sextile Pluto, sextile Saturn and Neptune, and sextile Uranus. So Mercury, Lilith will be opposite Uranus. What's interesting is the previous cradle, Venus, Lilith working together. It's kind of like the pristine beauty of the feminine working with that more dark, suppressed, repressed, also liberated feminine. And then Mercury comes involved and helps to communicate for Lilith. Again, further liberating the feminine. So much feminine empowerment happening. It's pretty amazing. Then we have a Kite configuration, December 3rd through the 13th. So a Kite is Mercury, Lilith, opposite Uranus, trine Saturn, trine Jupiter. Sorry, trine Saturn with Neptune and trine Jupiter. So again, it's this full grand trine, Mercury and Lilith, trine Jupiter, trine Saturn and Neptune, and opposite Uranus. So again, the opposition is the challenge. Mercury and Lilith opposite Uranus, but then Saturn and Neptune on one end helping the communication, and Jupiter on the other end helping the communication. So it's a beautiful kind of resolution of the opposition between communicating the empowered feminine and this radical shifting and changing that's happening on our planet. At the time of the Kite, Uranus will be retrograde, as well as Jupiter will be retrograde. So you'll experience both those elements more internally rather than externally in society. Then we have 3 T-squares, all with the moon's nodes. So a T-square is an opposition and a third planet or object squaring both of them. All conflict, all challenge. Basically, that third planet is in conflict and in the power struggle that's happening with the opposition. In this case, it's a little different because all three T-squares are with the moon's nodes. So the nodes on the moon, they represent our evolutionary trajectory. I've talked about this before, but it doesn't hurt to reiterate. The moon's nodes represent how our souls are evolving. In your own personal chart, it's how your soul is evolving, like past life to future life. Collectively, the moon's nodes represent a trajectory of evolution for a period of time that we're all going through. In this case, the nodes are North Node in Virgo, South Node in Pisces, sorry, I just want to make sure. South Node in Virgo, North Node in Pisces. Yeah, glad I checked on that. So the moon's nodes were moving from the concept of health, work, service, more of a personal endeavor, into Pisces as more of a collective, evolutionary, karmic resolution for humanity. So going from the personal effort, work, service to more of a collective evolution. So we have 3 T-squares starting December 2nd to the 8th. The sun will be square both the moon's nodes. I can't talk. Excuse me. So the sun in Sagittarius, our belief systems, our larger concepts, our awareness around travel, culture, experience is going to be in conflict with our soul's evolution. Then on December 8th through the 15th, Venus will come through Sagittarius and square both the moon's nodes. So that enjoyment of philosophy, that pleasure, that feminine curiosity around higher thinking will be kind of interjecting in conflict with this evolution of our work, our service towards humanity. Following that, December 19th through the 24th, Mercury then will come through Sagittarius and square the moon's nodes. This is all happening at the 13th and 12th degree of Sagittarius, Virgo, and Pisces. So you can look at your chart, and if you ever watch my videos and you want me to send you these transits for you to look at, I can do that. Just email me at montgomery.norton@gmail.com and I'll send you my transcript descriptions. Sorry, the transcript of the transit descriptions. So let's talk about the retrogrades. We've done this in videos past, so some of this will be repeating because they're involved for a long period of time. Starting with Neptune, it has been retrograde since July 4th. It went up to only 2 degrees of Aries. We got a glimpse of what all that means. and then it's gone backwards starting in July, coming back to just 29 degrees, 22 minutes of Pisces. So we dipped back into less than the last degree of Pisces. And then on December 10th, it'll turn around, station direct, start to go forward. So it's literally like our last touch, dip the toe back into Neptune in its home sign of Pisces, thus looking at a review of collective karma, our disillusionments, our illusions, our delusions. And then we'll be moving back into Aries as we've experienced the last 2 degrees of Aries, Neptune and Aries. Then it'll fully be into Aries for the next 165 years. Sorry, excuse me, the next 14 years. A full cycle of Neptune around the zodiac is 165. So we're basically crossing over that 0 point. And I talked about this in the last video. The 0 point of the zodiac chart, which is birthing an entirely new evolutionary cycle for us with regard to Neptune and Saturn, who are dancing over that 0 degree of Aries, last degree of Pisces. So this is major, and I've posted about that on Facebook with my daily transit postings. There's several astrologers have written whole articles on what Neptune crossing over into Aries means. Next, Chiron has been retrograde, started July 30th. It went up to 27 degrees of Aries. It's been in Aries since 2008, I believe. It went up to 27 degrees on July 30th, stationed retrograde. It's then been traveling back to 22 degrees of Aries. By January 2nd, it'll then station direct and then go forward and go back over those 5 degrees of Aries. So for quite a while, let's see, for quite a while, we've had Chiron dancing over 22 to 27 degrees of Aries. So where that lands in your chart, how it interacts with your chart, you've been experiencing for quite a while. And Chiron retrograde is like the wounded healer comes back retrograde internally, more implicit, more under the ground, not so obvious, not so public. Chiron will finally be out of Aries on June 19th of 26 until September 17th of 2026. It'll come back into Aries from September 18th until April of 2027. And then it'll finally be done with healing the masculine wound. So basically, this is our last review of Chiron dealing with the wounded healer of the masculine warrior. It'll then be in Taurus until July 18th of 2033. There's lots of major shifts when you look at the astrology and you see how many, big, slow-moving transpersonal planets are shifting signs or moving in and out of retrogrades. The next one is Uranus retrograde. It went up to 1 degree 27 minutes of Gemini, just the first half, first degree and a half of Gemini. By September, It then stationed retrograde, turned around, has been going backwards. November 7th is when it left Gemini retrograde and went back into Taurus. So it's now in Taurus, and it's going to go back to the 27th degree, 27th minute. I wonder what 27 means in numerology. So it would be a 27-9. I'll have to look that up and talk about that. So it's going to go backwards to 2727 of Taurus by February 4th of 2026. Then it'll station direct and go forward again. So Uranus has basically been conducting a review of the first degree, the introduction of Uranus and Gemini, what that means, what that feels like, which is basically like an upgrade of our collective minds. And then it'll get that last little dip in Taurus, the last 3 degrees, and then clear Taurus altogether. The next retrograde is Jupiter. Jupiter was going direct up to 25 degrees of Cancer. On November 11th, it stationed retrograde, started to travel backwards. It's going to go back to 15 degrees of Cancer by March 11th of 2026. Then it'll station direct and go forward again, reviewing 15 degrees to 25. So this will be basically a 10-degree review of social expansion, of emotional sensitivity, caring, nurturing. And this is an opportunity for all of us to go within and be with our own internal sensitivities. I'm going to end it there, and then I'm going to pick up on a separate video and talk about the current monthly transits for December. So, hope you all have fun. Enjoy this coming month. Starting tomorrow, I'm going to start with the December 2nd transit of Venus sextile Pluto, which is involved in the cradle. So I'll leave it there and jump back on. Ciao.